This is Ben from Agfa, and what we're looking at today is how to do a draw over using Krita. So I'm going to be looking at this chest here. We're going to look at bringing this into Krita and then just doing a simple draw over. So what we're going to do first is actually go to the model inspector and go to wireframe here. This will give me a few hints as to how they've sort of put this together. I'm going to press print screen, copy this. So when I went there, instead of saving it, I just went here to copy. And then into Krita and new file, create from clipboard, create. I'm going to go as web, and here I go. So I've already got that sort of layer there. So for people who've never used Krita before, or any kind of like Photoshop or image editing software, what makes this better than just say Paint is that we can have something over here called layers, where I can put a layer over the top of it and then just simply draw over it as many times as I want, and then click on this eye to hide it or to bring it back. And what that eventually means is that once we've started sort of having a very sort of basic draw over here of this sort of shape, we can then hide what's underneath and have a look at our shape itself to see if it's any good or if we just need to refine it. So you're going to have concept sketches for your Cert 2. So this is a good way of doing things if you're not very confident with drawing or perspective drawing, which, let's face it, unless you're doing drawings every single day, many people will struggle with those concepts. And really all this is about using this as a problem-solving activity where we can look at a 3D shape like this, break it down into its basic forms, and then start thinking about, okay, what kind of tools am I going to be using in order to create this shape? So let's just take a look at the sort of whole shape here, okay? So we've got a sort of chest here, we've got a handle here with a sort of sphere sort of handle there, we've got this sort of semi-cylindrical sort of shape here at the top for the lid, and we've got a rectangular prism here for that lock. So those are the main sort of features that we want to look at. So let's just get started. Now, again, as you could see before, it was pretty hard for me to sort of draw this shape with just the paint tool here. So I'm actually going to use the line tool for this one. I'm also going to make sure that I've got something selected that's going to be appropriate, not like the eraser, but definitely like a pen. Probably not a paintbrush because we don't want too much in the way of sort of movement around it. We just want a solid line. And I'm also going to change the color to something that's a little bit brighter than everything else, just so it's easier to see. So once I've done that, I'm just going to start breaking in the basic 3D shapes. So again, I don't want to go like this and draw every single line that they've got there because that's not really helping me figure out what sort of shapes I need. What I'm going to do instead is just start getting the very sort of basic shapes in. So I'm going to start with this rectangular prism because that's going to be the easiest shape to get. Now you can go sort of X-ray and start thinking about, okay, what's going to look like on the other side, but I wouldn't recommend it because really we're just trying to figure out what these shapes are. So once we've got that, now we come to our first, I guess, problem, is the fact that this sort of chest kind of opens up like this, and it's got this sort of chest thing here. It actually looks like this line is a little bit lower, and that this whole thing sort of goes a bit lower. In fact, I think it even goes lower than that. I think this is where the lid actually opens up. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's just generally what I sort of think there. And it's got this sort of cut in where the cylinder is. But anyway, that's our basic sort of first shape there. So I'm actually going to rename this layer. I'm going to say base form. Now I'm going to create another layer by clicking on this plus arrow here. And I'm going to go call this one lid. And I'm just going to try and trace around the lid. So I'm just using a series of lines to sort of get here. Again, I'm not going to worry about drawing any of the details of the lid. I'm just trying to get in the basic sort of shapes here. Again, for your one, you will not be required to animate this one. So you could just model it all as one shape, but still breaking it down like this is important just to be able to make it easier when you're modeling. So yeah, that's what we sort of got there. Next I'm going to look at is just going to be this handle. So new handle, and just going to draw around here on this one. Cool. You can also use a circle tool, though it can be a little bit hard given the angle that we're shooting at here, because that's normally a flat sort of thing, and we're looking at this at a 45-degree angle. So I think the line tool is still best one to use there. And then I'm just going to have another one here for the latch. So it's just going to be there, 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 and there. Cool. Excellent. So now if I hide this to the background there, I've got the very beginnings of a very sort of basic chest there that I've just drawn. So I'm just going to close up some of these lines here where there's gaps, just in case I want to use the fill tool on any of these sort of ones here. And I'm just going to also bring in another layer and left click and drag this layer underneath all the other ones here. Hide all these layers, and then put in something of a grey, dark grey background, and then bring back these. And that just makes it a little bit easier to see and make out if I've missed anything, or need to go back and change anything. Cool. And so that's all really I would expect from a very basic driver. You can of course go back and decide, you know what, I'm going to go back to the lid here, I'm going to put in these ribs, and I'm just going to draw across there. But it depends as well as to whether you actually want to model all that extra detail. You might want to just start with what you have there. Because again, with the orthographics, we're more inclined to worry about the overall sort of shape. So if you decide to add in extra detail after you've got your main shape in there, that is fine. But just for now, and just for this sort of exercise, let's just see if we can get you just to this point here, where we just have our sort of basic sort of drawings here, and we've got our main forms, and you can start thinking about what sort of forms you're going to use to start modeling out your chest. Okay, so I'll stop this recording here and have a go at that, and then we'll start looking at, okay, how do we convert this into an orthographic drawing that we can then load into Maya and start modeling over the top of. Okay, cool, excellent, we'll see you then.